You mentioned the other leg of the stool, which is trade, very much in focus now. On the framework that President Trump announced on Vietnam yesterday, I'm curious if you could tell us a little bit more about that. Has Vietnam agreed to it? And those 20% tariffs, where they send it over to us, is that on top of the 10% tariffs that we already have? How does it work?
It's not stacked on top of the 10%. That's the reciprocal rate.
Right. So this would just be 20% tariffs that with goods coming from Vietnam into the U.S. as part of this deal?
Yes.
And is the deal finalized?
I haven't spoke to Jamison Greer, who's heading the team. My understanding is that it's finalized in principle.
I guess the question is so far we've had some responses from retail, from the Footwear Association. I mean, they manufacture a lot in Vietnam, in part because the last Trump administration got them to shift out of China into Vietnam. That's going to be a higher cost of doing business for them to bring that product into the U.S.
Well, look, we've seen that a huge amount of the trade that comes from Vietnam is what's called transshipment from China. So we'll see what happens with the transshipment, and the businesses have already adjusted to a 10% tariff. So we'll see what happens with the additional 10. But thus far, we haven't seen any inflation from tariffs. And again, I would say that tariffs are not inflationary. You could get a one-time price bump. But in terms of a generalized economic inflation, I don't think that tariffs cause that.
But it has to come from somewhere. I mean, are you expecting to see it then in their margins, margin pressure on U.S. corporates, especially retailers that import all this stuff?
Well, why couldn't it come from the producers in Vietnam who want to keep market share?
So you think that's what's happening? They're negotiating with their suppliers?
I think they're negotiating with their suppliers. I think many of the apparel companies, their margins became abnormally high during COVID. So maybe one thought is we'll see a normalization there.